So some more general animation stuff. The timing was great for the scene where Miles sees Spider-Man fighting the Green Goblin. It's like a dance of him constantly trying to hide and run away, and the Goblin ruining that with all the props he's using to fight Spider-Man. So it was just like it was a great animated scene, I
Yeah,
thought.
no, you could tell that the people that set this up really understood that cinematography. You know,
Yeah.
they know how to pick those camera angles.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that one, the scene where Miles is sort of figured himself out. Now that what's that song? The What's Up Danger song, where
Uh-huh.
he's like going now. He's going out to go help the other guys. That sequence was just fantastic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and when you combine all of that with sort of how it felt like watching a moving comic. Because they'd
Yeah.
have like the text boxes and all this
That's what
stuff.
their premise was, like a comic book, that a moving comic book.
And it's just so well done the way they animated the stuff, the way the webs come out and they go up. It's just really really well thought out. They just did not skimp on anything in this movie, and they just went to the next level on everything, and I
That's
really
the
appreciated
best
that.
movie ever.
Yeah.
Cause okay, cause for me personally, like last year, seeing Black Panther, it was like that excitement of the first time seeing that. But then I saw it the second time and I liked it less. And then I was like, man, I don't think I want to see it a third time because I don't know if I'm going to like it even less. But
Right.
with Into the Spider-Verse, it holds up every time I watch it. I'm like, yep, this is still good.
Oh yeah. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, Black Panther for me was let down by a lot of the sort of poor animation special effects.
Or
And
fighting between him and T'Challa and Killmonger.
yeah,
We
that
talked
that,
about
that scene in the mine where they're fighting on that train track or whatever was just horrible. Um, I saw it in the trailer, and it used to be that they'd show you certain scenes in the trailer that weren't finished, and when you did see the movie, you'd see them improve. But in the last few years, it's like what you see in the trailer is gonna be in the movie.
right.
People are like, it's okay, it's okay. This is just early footage. They're trying to put a piece together a trailer, and they'll have it updated in the final, and that's like not the case anymore.
Right.
And I'm looking at like you guys released this? Like what?
Right. Even
What's
like
going on?
for Gemini Man, I'm like, it just seems so off. Did I message you about that? I'm like, does this look weird to you?
Yeah,
Like
Gemini Man, the
the
mouth.
3D Will Smith. I'm just like, it was look like the tracking was off.
Yeah. When he was just sort of standing there, not saying anything, not moving too much on his face, then it was like, okay, this looks pretty good. But then he would talk, and then mouth just every time he opened his mouth, I'm like, ooh, wow. It felt that mouth didn't feel like it was part of his face somehow. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Um, and there was that scene where older Will Smith gets knocked off his motorcycle,
Hmm.
and that digital double has to roll in the road,
Yeah.
and it was just horrible. I was like, wow. you know, um, I think mainly the reason for this is because they're asking so much from animators now.
Yeah.
Um, they're asking for like a million shots to be done, where these people have to rush through it. It's not that animators have gotten worse. It's just that they've gotten way more work dumped in their lap. So they have to rush through these shots, and they can't really, you know, make them as nice as they should.
Right.
Um, if you compare things like Jurassic Park, the original, what did
Still
it?
holding up in 2019.
It still holds up, and I don't remember what it was, like 12 or 13 CG shots or something in that movie, compared to today, where you got like hundreds. Like most of the shots have some kind of animation in them now. Um, but they're not hiring bigger and bigger teams. They're trying to get the same work out of the same size team. So you can almost understand why some of these things look pretty dicey. Um, there was actually a scene in that Far From Home Spider-Man movie
Hmm.
where he's wearing his black suit out in the daytime, and you could see this was just an animated character which I don't know why they didn't just, because there was nothing like, he wasn't doing anything crazy. He was just sort of standing there, and then he ran off the screen or something. And it's like, why didn't you just put a guy in a suit? Didn't even have to be Tom Holland. Just put a guy in the suit and have him run around.
Right.
And, it's like, CG for the sake of CG kind of a thing. And
Yeah.
it's just like, why? Why are we doing this? And like you said, if you're not going to do something crazy with the animation, why use it, right?
Yeah.
And I felt that way. I'm like, this is clearly a CG version of him. Why? Get an acting student fresh out
Yeah.
of school. You pay him a couple $100. It's not. It will cost you less than having
Right.
somebody sit there and animate this character for no reason. So
Yeah.
it just, I don't know why they do that.
Yeah. And then what did I think of? Um, oh, as an animation professional, like I feel like everybody's heart went out to like the crew who would have to redo Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, so y'all just went through all of that and didn't know it looked ugly. And then y'all released the trailer and then everybody like, hell no. And then now you gonna redo the movie? Like, y'all didn't do no focus groups or nothing?
Right. This is the thing. I'm like, how is this stuff getting through multiple levels? Through the, from the animators themselves on up through the thing, and then don't they pre-screen these things? Like, how did it make it through all of that and get released? It boggles the mind. I don't get how this is happening. You know what I mean? It's like, wow. Like, yeah, really, who thought that Sonic design was a good idea? It was just off, man. Like, why? Why would you do that?
Artist. It was probably some regular person who had power and was like, yeah, I like
Yeah.
it.
It's the execs. It's probably the execs said, this is what it's going to be, do it. And the artists were like, oh, okay, well, I guess I have no choice. Um, which is a shame, because now they have to redo all this work, spend all this extra money. But hopefully the film will turn out better,
Yeah.
this time around. So we'll see.
Yeah. So some stuff that you like, moving on to style, some stuff that you mentioned before, like they went above and beyond with the style, making it look like a comic book with the halftones and outlines. So some educational things. There were some Ben-Day dots. So those are the small colored dots that are closely spaced, widely spaced, or overlapping. If you think about printing techniques,
Mm-hmm.
and then the halftones, that's a process in which the density and pattern of black and white dots are varied to simulate different shades of gray. So you mentioned that with the shading, and then the outlines, and then the Kirby dots or the Kirby crackle. That's a method of showing a crackle of energy, such as explosions, smoke, blast from ray guns, and cosmic energy. So, like those are all like the terms that are like either old school or comic book terms, where I wanted to tell y'all what the definition of that was, but all those were used in the movie. So what did you think of that, those elements? I know you talked about it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I think it was a great sort of shout out to the original comic book days. Getting that style, that feel. I really love how self-aware this movie was, that it was a comic book movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that it wasn't trying to be something else. It was just very clear
Yeah.
that it was a comic book movie, and they even had comic books in there with the Spider-Man. It's just
Yeah.
it was just, again, just whoever thought about this stuff and did it. I'd like to shake that guy's hand, or that person's hand. I shouldn't say that guy. I'd like to shake their hand, because this is brilliant. Um,
Brilliant.
the thought bubbles when Miles is thinking to himself, and you'll see the thought bubbles, or the panel sort of, you know, just really nice, really nicely done. Um, and just it just felt amazing how they put all that in there and made it work. The
Yep.
comedy, the sort of comedic timing to go with
Mhm.
that stuff was really good. Uh, so, just my hats off to these people. Seriously, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's just like, as a normal viewer, you can definitely appreciate it, but as animation professionals and like either trying to think of how they accomplished it or just appreciating our craft, it's just like
Yeah, right.
like this is so
Yeah,
good.
it's just wow. I don't know if they're making a sequel or not. Um, I tend to get scared when because sequels tend to not be able to live up to the original because all the sort of secrets are out
Yeah.
and they're not going to have the same effect the second time around. So I'm just hoping that they can continue to make it, if they are going to make a sequel, to make it as good somehow. Um, so we'll see.
Yeah. And then like you mentioned, once he gets bit by the spider, the movie goes full comic book mode with the paneling and the text pop up. So it's like he's walking into the school and he's just like, why can I hear things
Yeah,
and just tripping out.
yeah. Um, and and little like when they went to go steal a computer from Octavia's his office, and they're running out, and he throws that bagel and he hits the guy in the head, and this little bagel that the word bagel pops up. That stuff right there, man. Oh, it's so good, so good, so
Yeah,
good.
that's so funny. And then I think because I think I made read an article about the animation of them escaping and how he was just kind of jerky and jumpy, like trying to learn how to do the spider web, and it just wasn't working and stuff like that. But then once you have the scene at the end, once he becomes Spider-Man, and it's all smooth, and
Hmm.
you can see the different animation, how you use different animation techniques to kind of tell the story and tell the character's journey as well.
Yeah, yeah. Um, you really could follow the growth of the character. Like you said, he started out really just unprepared for this, untrained, but as it sort of went on, and he became better at it, you could really feel it. Um, and the way I really did like the way he learned from Peter.
Yeah.
The whole because when he had Peter tied up on the punching bag at the beginning, he says, "Don't watch the mouth. I think watch the hand," something like that. And then he does that later. Uh,
Yeah.
the way Peter, right before Peter ties him up, the way he sort of leg sweeps him and then grabs him,
Mm-hmm.
and then he does it later. So he's really picking up on these things from Peter. Um,
So
and
Peter's Mr. Miyagi.
yeah, pretty much. Uh, so there's a lot of, like you said before, that foreshadowing. I think was really good, and just with the way that when he did that to Peter at the end and had him by the shirt, and then Peter comes up, grabs his arm, and then Peter realizes that this guy he's ready, and then he
Yeah.
just lets go, and it's the student become the master sort of thing,
Yeah.
which I thought was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and just good, man. This I forgot how good this movie was because I just rewatched it. I forgot. I'm like, wow, this is really good.
Yeah.
And, every time I watch it with my kids,
Mhm.
and usually my kids, if they've seen something within the last few weeks, they don't want to watch it again, but they're always ready to watch this movie. So
Nice.
that was yeah. It's nice that it has that effect. Yeah.
So the last part of animation, the multiple Spider-Man. So they used the medium to combine a bunch of different styles of Spider-Man seamlessly. Seamlessly is the key word.
Right.
People are getting a tutorial on like all the different styles of animation without even really knowing it. So we have the perfect Spider-Man that dies, Peter B. Parker. We have
Hmm.
Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, Spider Noir, which is the film noir. And then, so for his character, the onomatopoeia is used, and that's the process of creating a word that phonetically imitates or resembles or suggests a sound like boom, pow. And
Right.
E. Parker is like the anime style with the spider robot, and then Spider Ham or Peter Porker is the Looney Tune style. So, what do you think about them being able to like combine all of these styles together and it worked?
If I'd have been at the production meeting and they said they wanted to do that, I'd have looked at them sideways, like, "Are you serious?" You know what I mean? Like that is never going to work, and yet there you go, it did work.
Yeah,
Um, Peter Porker was that's the one I was worried about the most. That
yeah.
Looney Tunes is over the top. Somehow
Mhm.
it worked. I'm still like, what? How? But it worked.
Mhm.
He's pulling out the cartoon hammer and just,
Yeah.
and when they're in Miles's room and they get sort of they're up on the ceiling there and the roommate sees them And Peter
Yeah.
Falk's like, do animals talk in this universe? Because I don't want to freak him out. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And then
Even
Penny and
moving
her.
side to side, something that I noticed when I was just watching it is like when they're moving in the corner side to side, it's like all of the 3D versions are moving, and then Peter Porker is like popping out the side and then going behind them and then popping out again.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was a different type of thing for him to be like, oh, I'm not gonna like move with you guys. I'm gonna do this bouncy like
right.
squash and thing.
Yeah, and again, I think the movie being so self-aware is not afraid to address this. Peter Porker asks, "Are you able to float through the air when you smell something?" Well, I forget the exact line.
Yeah.
They're calling out the fact that they've put these characters together. They're not trying to hide the fact that that they've done that. And I really like how self-aware this movie is, and they know what they're doing, and they're not afraid to even say it right on screen. So I thought it was brilliant. Spider Noir, the way he's all black and white,
And
and
then I go with the wind.
yeah, he just shows up in the basement, and his trench coat is blowing in the wind, and the guy's like, "We're in the basement. Where's that wind coming from?" And it's brilliant. I'm like, wow, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
I think the casting on that Nicolas Cage was
Yeah.
perfect. Say what you will about Nicolas Cage, but when he gets the right role, he's awesome.
Yeah.
And the way he played this character was really good. He's the match. I let the match burn down on my fingers just so I can feel something. The way he delivers those lines is awesome. It's so good. And when he's trying to train Peter with his surprise punches and whatever,
Right.
yeah, man, so good. Um, so somehow they got these styles to work. I don't know what kind of black magic was thrown in there to make that
Right.
happen, but it works.
And I think the reason I like this movie so much as well is because one of my idols is Walt Disney, and mostly because Walt Disney would like that. Walt Disney is the reason Disney got to the level it did, because he would say for the animators to do something, and they would like be behind his back like, how the heck are we going to do that? Like, he just had these big ideas, but he pushed the people to do that. So just to think about the ambition of this movie of, we're going to have multiple types of 3D or 2D characters together, we're going to have great star, like all these ambitious things, and the production team was probably like, how the heck are we going to do that? But they pushed everybody to do it, like the writers, the animators, like even creating software for the outlines. It's just like, that's what animation is supposed to be about.
Right.
That's just like missing from 3D, because we're at the point where they're coming out with so many bad 3D movies that people don't like 3D. And it's not because of the medium, it's because of the people producing the movies.
Yes, I agree 100%. Um, the industry has become so much about just making money.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's just reboots of everything. Everything's a reboot
Yeah.
or a sequel. Pixar never used to do that, and then when Toy Story started to make that money, they started making sequels there. And they keep rebooting things. I mean, Spider-Man, look how many times that's been rebooted. It's about making those dollars now more than the sort of art form. So a movie like this,
It was like purely for money, because the Cars 1, after Cars 1, there shouldn't be Cars 2 or Cars 3. That's purely for pajamas and like
exactly,
backpack.
exactly. And again, this is where those executives get in the way, because the executives say, "Wow, this movie made so much money, make a sequel." And you kind of have to do it. They run the studios, they run everything, so you kind of have to do it. So this the reason why there's a lot of movies that are just thrown out there real fast just because they need to make that money, um, and they're not given the sort of development time that they should be,
Mm-hmm.
because that's stuff takes a while, and that's money. Every day that goes by, you hired all these people, there's money going, so you gotta get it out as fast as possible. And to me, that's kind of sad about the industry, in that some people got to get their private jets, people got to get their yachts, and if if they have to put out a bunch of just horrible movies to be able to do that, that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
um,
Because
so
go see anyway, especially if it's like a nostalgia type thing.
yeah,
Because we knew Lion King was gonna be bad.
you know
to do a review on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, I mean, Lion King for me, I sort of go back and forth on that one because just from a technical standpoint, I thought it was amazing. I mean,
Yes, like
the
technically, yes.
yeah, the amount of work that went into recreating those lines so realistically, to me is astounding, right? Um, but then on the other end of that, it's like, well, all you did was re-release the same movie,
Yeah.
except you dressed it differently. What was the point? You know, Again, money. It looks like it was. I feel like the script team didn't have much to do on that production because I mean, they literally almost took it line by line from the original one.
And they took out some good lines.
Right, right. So it was just like, okay, you technically have done something very interesting here, but
Cool.
why?
And I just felt like the technical aspect of it belonged on National Geographic, not
Yeah.
in a Disney movie.
Do people really want to see super realistic lions talking? I would say no. If they had stylized them somehow, you could have had
Like
a real.
because he did Jungle Book,
Yeah,
but he didn't like how he did Jungle Book, so but it was like realistic, but it was still stylized.
yeah. So they should have done something like that for sure. Um, I, yeah, I don't see the point of just trying to recreate reality so perfectly.
Hmm.
Um,
Unless you use it for like medicine or like just not for movies. Anything else, but like just not
well,
for movies.
right, and plus, if you remember like movies like Babe with the pig,
Yeah,
where they used real pigs and then just put animated mouths on them,
yeah,
you really could have done that, right? You
yeah.
could have used if realism was that important to you, you could have just done that. I don't know why you would spend the time to really make your animated lines look so real when you could just have real lines and just put animated mouths on them or something like that. Um,
They
so
were making recipe and stuff, so that was the good piece of it.
yeah,
Um, and then just to quickly mention, you already mentioned this, but like they did the animating on twos to give a more jerky style, so that was on purpose. So for people who are watching, we usually do animation on ones, so each frame, like if you take a picture, click, move, take a picture, click, that's a frame, and so you usually animate on every frame, but they skipped a frame to also get rid of like motion blur that comes with animating on ones for the comic book style. And so lastly, we're going to talk about very briefly on innovation. So a couple of things that they did was that they released an open source program called OpenColor.io, and that's used for color management. I haven't had a chance to play around with that, but it's available. And then they did 2D Sparks where they added for the explosions, and then they created the software for the hand-drawn lines. And when I was reading an article for the Color IO, there's this academy that they created, and a lot of the animation studios are a part of it. So essentially, what they're doing with the academy, because the Open Color IO is the second software that's been submitted to the academy, so they're trying to release open source programs to the public so that the public can take it further.
Mm.
And so they're just trying to make the animation industry better and kind of release things and let us all kind of do our part in making it better.
yeah. I think the open source movement is brilliant. Things like Blender,
Yeah.
the 3D software for those that aren't aware of Blender. Um, Blender's come a long way,
Yeah.
mainly because of the fact that it is so open source that people can take it and alter it, do whatever however they want to do it. And these are the kind of, if you do something that's really good, they will actually like take it and put it into the actual product. Um, it allows for a lot of cool innovation, and just watching Blender over the years, I hated Blender for a long time, and
Yeah.
then version 2.8 came out. I'm like, wow, why am I even using Maya? Um,
Mhm.
it is it's getting to the point where I mean, a lot of studios have taken up Blender, um, because it is now competitive in terms of what it can
Yeah.
do. It's and honestly, Autodesk doesn't look like they care anymore. Uh, because Blender has caught up, and some people would say is starting to lead. You know, and in some ways I'd agree.
Like I feel like America, like we used to be great, but now we just say we're great.
Right,
We
right.
don't even try to be great. But
So it's just like I say, Autodesk. I've been an Autodesk user for probably 15 years now,
yeah,
um, and they're not innovating the way they used to anymore.
yeah,
Their updates, going from version 2018 to version 2019 is very little that's been improved. Um, but Blender is just constantly being pushed, and 10 years from now, I'll be shocked if Autodesk is still around if they don't step up their game for
right.
what they charge for their products. They should
Yes,
have a much better product than Blender, and they don't, not anymore. Um, and it's just one of those things. And it's because there's that open source community that you can
yeah,
develop tools from Blender. You can do whatever. You can pretty much do whatever you want, and you get it for free. Autodesk products are like $1,500 a year or something like that, which is crazy, especially if you're just by yourself doing this stuff. You're not part of a studio. Fifteen hundred
right.
dollars a year is a lot. It's a lot
Yeah.
of money just for one piece of software. When you think about all the different pieces of software you got to use to
Hmm.
pay $1,500 a year just for one, it's absolutely insane. You got your Adobe suite you got to get into. You got you know
Yeah.
all this other stuff. If you end up as just an independent artist, you end up paying a ridiculous amount of money just to be able to work.
Yeah, I pay $50 a month.
Right.
That's
Uh,
more reasonable.
yeah, it is. But when you got something like Blender, open source,
Yeah.
it's got a lot more fun. It's got its own compositor in it. It's got its own sculpting in it. Little things like that, and
Break
it's
it
all free. It's free forever.
down. Hmm.
You got to ask yourself why use Autodesk?
Yeah.
And honestly, I like Maya and the way that it works. I just wish they would innovate more. But I just from using Blender, I could switch over to Blender. There's certain things that might annoy me a little bit about Blender, but I could see myself switching over and getting used to it because it's used so much now. So the fact that these guys on Spider-Man are releasing these tools open source is only going to benefit the industry. It's only going to, because you don't know who's out there that's got
You
these
get
skills
more
that.
hands on it, and so that's kind of what's kind of holding Autodesk, because it's only with Autodesk, it's only the people you hire, but with
Yeah,
an open source program, it's anybody in the world.
yeah,
And people have crazy ideas. After going to RIT and just like sitting in a class where we tell our like our animation ideas, I'm like, how did you even think of that?
right, right,
So people can think of some crazy things to put in a program.
yeah. Um, so it's getting to the point where these other companies are gonna have to maybe think about open source software instead of just holding onto their code like that. Like because once you open it up to everybody, there's millions of people out there with really good ideas that they can develop and just improve your software. Um, and I think Autodesk is gonna learn that the hard way.
Yeah.
Um, ZBrush as well. I mean, ZBrush is not open source, and the nice thing about ZBrush is you buy it once and you don't have to pay for upgrade. You get free upgrades for life. But again, Blender's got its own sculpting in there, and give it a few years, it'd probably be up to ZBrush level. Uh,
Yeah.
Mudbox by Autodesk used to compete with ZBrush, but it's pretty much dying
Yeah.
because ZBrush has innovated well beyond what Mudbox can do. Because again, Autodesk just doesn't seem like they care. Uh,
Yeah.
I think they make their money more from sort of their CAD stuff, the more technical software.
Yeah.
So,
There's
this stuff is not their bread and butter, but it's like you guys were the industry standard. Why would you not? Why would you let that slip away? Um, but that's what's happening. So I don't know. I think we'll see some changes in the next few years.
Yeah, even with the digital sculpting piece, with me kind of hopping around trying to find a program that I was comfortable with, because I started with like ZBrush, and like ZBrush is just so, it's just like what people think of Maya, where it's very intimidating when you first open it. And
Hmm.
then I hopped to like Sculptress, and then I don't think I ever tried Mudbox, but I tried Blender, and even before I bought a tablet, like Blender, I was able to sculpt easily in Blender, and it was comfortable with a mouse. I'm like, this what? But I did get the tablet so I could just learn like how to use the pen. But I'm just like, this is so much. It was like what people think of Cinema 4D, how it's kind of like easy to get into. And
Hmm.
I'm just like, wow, like I should learn sculpting on Blender, and then if I go like when I go to ZBrush, it's just learning the navigation and like the all the extra tools. But it was just so easy to sculpt in Blender. I'm just like, wow, this is what it should be like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but Blender's come up, man. Like I said, I used to hate it. Before 2.8, I wouldn't have used Blender to save my life. But 2.8, man, it's just wow. It's pretty good. There's a lot of things about it that are really nice, and the rendering stuff is really cool. Um, and in fact, I think they're up to, let's see, they released version 2.81. I think they're working on version 2.82. So they're just, even now they're innovating, and really
Yeah,
updating it as they go, which is really nice. It's a really nice piece of software. A lot of studios are picking it up. Because in this day and age, it doesn't really matter, especially if you're just modeling. It doesn't matter what you model in.
yeah,
Um, Things are so easily transferable now that you might as well just pick the tool you're comfortable with.
right.
And for a lot of people, because I know, like, when students come into the program that have 3D experience, 99 times out of 100 is Blender, because
Mm-hmm.
that's free. That's the one they can get into. These little 15, 16-year-olds, that's the software that they can, you don't have to pay anything. You just download it and start
Yeah,
doing it. Um, so I hope that this continues.
yeah.
Then more companies start to do that, because otherwise, I mean, Blender is going to rock this industry if they're the only ones doing this. They're gonna just blow up the industry, and all these other software packages are just going to fall by the wayside.
Yeah, because even with some of the innovation like in Maya 2018 and Maya 2019, where they added the mesh, and because I had to learn Cinema 4D for my current job at first, I was like, that's just Cinema 4D.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just copied what Cinema 4D does, but
Right.
not as well. Like,
Yeah, and
like
I remember Cinema 4D. I used to use Cinema 4D like way back, because I sort of went through all these different software packages back in the day, just trying to figure out which one I liked. And I used Cinema 4D for a little bit, and I remember it was really good at rendering. Um, and then it sort of took off on this motion graphics
yeah,
thing. If you're a motion graphics guy, you're working in After Effects, like Cinema 4D and After Effects are so married now that it's kind of crazy how well they work together. Um, and Maya used to be well integrated with After Effects, and for some reason it's not as good anymore with After Effects. As far as, I think, you used to be able to open Maya files in After Effects at some point. I don't think you can anymore. Um,
you can
so I,
still 4D.
yeah, yeah, After Effects does come with that light version of Cinema 4D, and so motion graphics, that's certainly the way to go. So we'll see what Blender can do. I've got I've, I've got high hopes for Blender. um, because if and I have the ability to switch to that software in our program, because I kind of sort of dictate what software we use.
Mm-hmm.
And in a few years, man, if things keep going the way they're going, I got no problem just say, okay, we're gonna start using Blender over Autodesk stuff. Even though Autodesk stuff is free for educational purposes, but
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't do much for a student that just graduated, that
Right,
needs, maybe got a freelance gig that they got to model some stuff, but they can't legally use that software for that. Well, then you kind of put them in a pickle there, because now they can't make that money because they don't have $1,500 a year to
right.
get Maya. You know what I mean? So
That's the
uh,
loans.
yeah, and you don't want students illegally using software just because the cost of getting it legally is just prohibitive. So with Blender, you don't have that issue. it's free all the way around, and you can produce results that are just as good. Um, and you know, you don't get into any kind of legal trouble,
Right.
because Maya will sort of, if you open a file open with the student version of the software, it'll tell you right as you open the file. So if you make something for somebody and they want the Maya files, now you're in a bit of trouble there, because it's going to tell them as soon as they open that file that it was made in a student version. So yeah, Blender's the one. We'll see.
Yeah, so as we wrap up this video, what, like, with the awesomeness that Into the Spider-Verse was, like, what do you hope this is the catalyst for the future of 3D? Like, what do you hope people take from this movie and apply to their future, like, films?
Um, I want people to understand that you can still be innovative,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's easy to sort of fall in the trap thinking that everything's been done, we've thought of it all, but that's not really the case. If you take the time, you can come up with new stuff. Um, it's also good to see sort of minority characters getting in these movies, and not being in the typical roles that they might get.
Yeah.
Being front and center instead of maybe the black friend, or criminals or whatever. Um, Having more depth than that.
Yeah.
You know, Miles's uncle was a criminal, but at the same time, it was more than that.
Yeah.
Um, so being able to see that, it's good for the young people. Young minorities don't really get to see that too much,
Right.
especially in the sort of Black Latino communities. Um, so it's good to see. I mean, yeah, we have films and stuff. We got movies, live action movies, but it's good to see us in animation too, um, because we don't get seen too much. I mean, the Incredibles had Frozone, but he was sort of the main
He
guy's
needs,
friend.
he needs his own movie.
He does need his own movie. Absolutely, absolutely, he does. Um, and so, I'd like to see movies where, even sometimes when there is a major black character, he's still surrounded by mostly non-black, characters. Um, so it would be nice to be able to see more films where in animation that are really good and really well made, that the budget has been put into,
Yeah.
where we are sort of front and center, and it shouldn't be weird that there's that many black people in one movie. It should just be a normal thing.
Yeah.
So, um, and that part of that, what needs to happen is we need to see more black people in the industry. And there's a lot out there. Don't get me wrong, but we need to see more of us in there. We need to see more of us in sort of the higher up positions, sort of the executive positions as well. We need to own our own studios, um, and all this, and black women too, man. Just there's a lot of women in animation, but black women seem to be the ones that I see the least of. It'd be great to see more, black women, more Latino women in there telling the stories again, up at the high levels too. Let's see some black women executives and studio owners and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, just so we can tell all the stories, man. There's so much that the world
Even
really hasn't been exposed to.
like, cause
What's that?
they like, even from the continent, like, they I mean, there's a lot of American stories that aren't told because there's a lot of minority stories, but even from the continent of, like, just like cultural stories,
Mhm.
and because your student film that you did was a cultural story, and it's just like, you don't have to redo these things. There's still new things. I mean, it's the same core, like, lessons that you're learning, but there's other countries that have all these stories that are available,
Yeah.
and then
No,
you have
absolutely.
the, like, you don't have to do the Walt Disney thing where you just, like, take all the culture out of out of the story and then just change it totally. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and you know what? Now that you say that, that has always been an issue for me with Disney. Is
Mhm.
Disney's had no problem jumping in other people's cultures, taking their
Mhm.
stories, and then making their characters sound American. Just
Mm-hmm.
always bug me. Like Mulan should not sound like some Valley girl. She should sound like she's Asian. I mean, I get they have to speak English because that's kind of the language. Fine, I'm okay with that. But why they always have to sound American, right?
Right.
Lion King is supposed to be set in Africa, but these guys sound like we're just downtown Los Angeles somewhere. Um,
And
and,
that's something
and
I mentioned in my Lion King review of like the Rafiki character was actually voiced by somebody from Africa, and so
yes,
that's why he was able to use the languages and stuff like that. That you
and
commended me on, but I still messed up. But
no, so
I
yeah,
tried.
so Rafiki in the new Lion King was played by John Kani,
Mm-hmm.
was the same guy that played T'Chaka,
Yeah,
T'Challa's father, and he's the reason that the Black Panther had actual Xhosa in it
yeah,
instead of just some nonsense made up African language.
right.
Uh, and Disney does this, right? They'll take a story from someone's culture and have American characters, but then they'll have one character in there that is supposed to be African or from that culture. Uh, and it's like, okay, so you acknowledge that this is from Africa, but yet this very minor character, I guess Rafiki's not minor, but this sort of background character has the African accent. Then how do you explain the other ones not having that accent? You know what I mean?
Right.
And of course, who do they give the African accent to in that movie? The monkey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, right. So,
Yeah,
so little things like that because it's like they know
yeah,
that what they're doing.
yeah, yeah.
And they sort of threw Rafiki in there to sort of shut us up, kind of a thing. So yeah, he's in there, yeah. But it's like, why don't they all speak that way? They're all from the same place.
Right.
Um, in Mulan, there was that sort of annoying guy who had more of a sort of Asian sounding accent, but he was the annoying guy in the thing. It's
Right.
like, wow, why you why are you doing that? It's really annoying.
Yeah.
Um, and I have to ask myself why that is. Is it that Americans can't relate to a movie if it's not full of people that sounds like them? You know what I mean? It's like, why is that? Why do you need to put that on there?
And that's something I wanted to mention earlier when you were talking about like when we were talking about the modeling and I've noticed that white people from foreign countries are able to do African hair and and they do African characters or like African descent characters more like Gus Suarez, and there's another one I can't remember what his name is, but I'm just like, what is the mental prison that American white people have, where we just don't exist. And then there's these people in other countries that, like in Brazil, and they're just like killing it.
Yeah,
And like, because Gus Suarez, he he has a character of Biggie. He has maybe Coolio, and then he has some like original characters. But it's just like the hair is awesome, and I can't remember the other guy name, but I'm just like, they can do it.
right.
It's like they actually try
Yeah,
and try harder than, if you remember my first class where the guys created black character. I won't go over that. But we were just like, really? That's how
yeah,
we look.
yeah, yeah.
You see us every day, and that's how we look. Okay.
Yeah, no,
But
it's
I was
yeah,
telling
I don't get it. I don't know.
you, you remember Latoy?
Yeah.
I've been talking to her recently, and she doesn't remember. I was like, "You saved the day with your black baby character," because my DVD or whatever didn't work, or I didn't burn it properly, so I wasn't able to show mine. But I'm like, "You saved the day
Yeah.
with how black people looked."
Yeah, so I hope it gets better. I hope as time goes on it gets better because
Yeah.
yeah, it's about time, man.
Yeah, and then lastly, I'll throw up the post that I saw today, but it's good for representation too, because I just saw a post where a mom was saying that she was crying because Halloween's coming up, and the little boy wanted to dress as Miles Morales, and so they put together the little costume, and he just was like, you know why this character is great, Mom? Because it looks like me, like. representation.
Right. Absolutely.
I'll put that up on the screen, but it was like a great little post where yes, kids now have characters that where they can dress up like them and they don't have to be like the black version. They can be the authentic version of that character.
Exactly. Yep. So, and you know, the other thing too is sometimes you'll see white kids wanting to dress up like these minority characters. I think that's also important, to raise these kids in this world where, you know, that kid's black is just another kid. You know,
Yeah.
nothing, you know, let's not have this us and them thing. It's just kids that
Right.
are slightly different from each other. You
Yeah.
know, and it's not a big deal, so much. I think
Yeah,
that
that under control. It's just the adults that kind of infiltrate their mind because
yeah.
kids are who they just get raised differently sometimes.
Right, and that's the thing. Kids don't come to this kind of thinking on their own. Like if you just put a bunch of kids together, different ethnicities, they're not gonna think much of it.
Yeah.
You know? It's the adults around them that put these ideas in their heads, and that's kind of a shame. But I'm hoping that things sort of improve as time goes on.
Yeah.
Like I say, man, I grew up around all kinds of sort of ethnicities, so it's never been a thing for me. It's always you know it's always just been normal for there to be multiple types of people around me,
Yeah.
uh, and that's kind of what I want for my kids as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would like to thank you, Karabo, for doing this video with me. Like, I wanted it to be you, so I like, yeah, we finally got to do this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want you to like, so I know it's real. Comment and tell me how you feel. Subscribe to seal the deal, and sign up for post notifications to show your zeal. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.
Bye, guys.